My narcissistic brother accuses me of stealing from his family and having an affair with his wife after. If you had asked anyone in Charleston who the Dawson brothers were growing up, they would have told you. Dylan was the charmer, and I was the shadow. He was the varsity quarterback, the one with the big laugh and a bigger temper. I was the kid who kept his head down and got out as fast as he could. We were born 4 years apart, but never felt like brothers. Just strangers raised under the same roof, kept together by obligation and one very image-obsessed mother. Dylan was the golden one. Always had been. My mom would say things like, "Lucas is the steady one, but Dylan just shines." That was her way of explaining why she let him get away with everything. The failed classes, the screaming matches, the way he would break things during dinner and blame it on the table being crooked. He had charm. The kind that looked good at church and turned toxic behind closed doors. I left Charleston at 19. College, internships, anything to escape the long shadow Dylan cast. But like most family dysfunction, it found its way back. In the form of Rachel. She was Dylan's girlfriend in college. Smart, soft-spoken, someone you'd expect to see at a library or walking dogs at a shelter. She had this way of looking at people that made you feel like you mattered. When I met her, I remember thinking, she's too kind for him. Turns out, I was right. They got married after graduation. Rachel became a nurse. Dylan bounced between sales jobs. Always quitting, always blaming someone else. Then came Lena, their daughter, my niece. Before we go further, don't forget to like this story, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what happens next. The only innocent thing in a family built on eggshells. I moved back to Charleston 5 years ago after getting hired at Dawson and McLean Technologies, the mid-sized firm my uncle helped start. Not out of nostalgia, just practicality. Lower rent, decent job, no illusions. I saw Rachel and Lena occasionally. Holidays, birthdays, quiet lunches Rachel would arrange on her days off. She was always calm, even when her eyes looked tired. You could tell she was keeping something buried, but she never said much. Until Lena turned 9. That was the year things changed. Lena started texting me. At first it was simple stuff. "Hi, Uncle Lucas. I got an A on my math test." Or, "Do cats get scared of thunderstorms?" But then came others. Questions no kid should ask. "Is it okay if my dad yells a lot? How do you know when someone's mad because of you or mad at the world?" And one that broke something in me. "You're nicer to me than Dad is. Does that mean I'm more yours than his?" I didn't respond to that last one right away. I stared at it. Let my phone sit on the nightstand for a full day before replying. "You're his daughter. But you're allowed to feel safe with more than one person." I didn't tell Rachel about the messages. Not yet. I didn't want to overstep. But something in me shifted. Dylan started noticing, though. He'd show up at family events and stare at me longer than necessary. Make comments like, "Uncle Lucas, always the therapist. What's next? You gonna teach her how to drive?" I'd laugh it off. But I saw Rachel flinch every time. And Lena? She just got quieter. One night, after a family barbecue at my parents' house, Dylan pulled me aside while Rachel was buckling Lena into the car. His breath smelled like whiskey. "You think you're better than me?" I froze. "I saw the way she hugs you. I hear the way she talks about you. You think you can take my family because you never had one of your own?" "Dylan," I said, "you're drunk. And you're a problem." That was it. Not a fight. Not a punch. Just a warning. 2 days later, I got a call from Rachel. "I need to talk," she said. In person. We met at a coffee shop near the hospital where she worked. She looked pale. Shaken. She pulled out her phone and showed me a video Lena had recorded. It was Dylan. Screaming. Not yelling screaming. About spilled juice. About disrespect. About how this house doesn't listen to me. In the corner of the video, you could see Lena. Frozen. Silent. Clutching a stuffed bear. Rachel whispered. She started recording when she got scared. I didn't even know she was doing it. That's when I knew we were past tension. This wasn't about a difficult brother anymore. This was about protection. Rachel looked up at me and said something I'll never forget. "Lena asked me if she could live with you instead." I didn't have words. She didn't need them. Because that was the moment I stopped being a passive brother and became a target. I didn't sleep much after that meeting with Rachel. I replayed Lena's video over and over in my head. That little shaky hand holding a phone, the way her eyes darted just out of frame. A child's instinct to document proof. At 9 years old. It wasn't just the volume of Dylan's voice, it was the venom in it. Like he had to make his words bite or they wouldn't matter. Rachel didn't cry while we talked. But her hand shook when she held the coffee cup. She wasn't asking for anything. Not yet. But I think she was testing to see if I'd look away. I didn't. 2 nights later, I was home late, nursing a headache and scrolling mindlessly through emails when I heard a knock at my front door. It wasn't polite. It was hard, fast, repetitive. I already knew. I opened the door, and there he was. Dylan. Drunk. Red-faced. Reeking of something harsh and cheap. "You got a minute," he said. He didn't wait for the answer. He walked in like it was his house. "What are you doing here, Dylan?" "Just thought we should talk. Brother to brother." "You're drunk. And you're a problem?" "You already used that line." He turned and looked at me, glassy-eyed. "Lena thinks you're her savior. You really enjoy that, don't you?" The poor little girl whispering to Uncle Lucas like he's her hero. "No," I said. "I enjoy knowing she feels safe around me." "You trying to take her? Is that it?" "No one's taking anyone. Rachel's probably in on it too. You two playing happy family behind my back?" That's when I realized he wasn't just angry. He was spiraling. This wasn't a confrontation. It was a collapse. "Dylan, sit down. Don't tell me what to do in your little rental house with your second-hand furniture and your smug attitude. You're not well. I'm not the one replacing people's fathers." That was it. That's when I stepped between him and the hallway, because he was scanning the room like he expected to find someone. Rachel, maybe. Lena. He'd crossed from drunk to dangerous. "Get out." "Or what?" "Or I call the cops." He laughed. Hard. Mocking. "You always were the tattletale, weren't you? Always running to someone else to clean up your mess. This isn't a game." "No," he said. "It's war." He left eventually, slamming the door hard enough to make the frames on my wall rattle. I locked the deadbolt, then called Rachel. She answered immediately. "Was he there?" "Yeah." "Is he gone?" "For now. I'm coming over." "You sure that's safe?" "I'm bringing Lena." She arrived 20 minutes later, Lena already in pajamas, half asleep, clutching the same stuffed bear from the video. Rachel didn't say much. Just, he punched a hole in the bathroom door. Said it was an accident. "You okay?" "I've lived with worse." "But Lena hasn't." "She's not going to." I set up the spare room. Lena curled into the guest bed like she'd been there 1,000 times. And when Rachel tucked her in, I heard Lena whisper, "Are we staying forever?" Rachel didn't answer. Neither did I. Because there are some things you can't promise out loud. Not until you're ready to keep them. The next morning, Rachel made coffee in silence. Then she turned to me. "I'm calling a lawyer. Custody. Something. Anything. He's unraveling. What if he finds out she's here?" "Then let him. We've got proof. We've got the videos. The texts. I'm done hiding behind hope." She left for work. I stayed home with Lena that day. We baked. Played music. Did a puzzle. She laughed more than I'd seen in years. And every time I heard it, I braced for the sound of a door being kicked in. It never came. But that didn't mean he was gone. Just waiting. That night, I got an email from my company's HR department. The subject line, "Urgent. Workplace misconduct allegation." I opened it. Inside, a report filed anonymously, alleging that I was inappropriately involved with a married coworker and interfering with a child's home environment. Dylan had started his war. And this time, he was using paperwork. The HR email sat in my inbox like a ticking bomb. I reread it 3 times. "Anonymous concerns have been raised regarding your personal conduct with a married individual and her child. While we are not making any assumptions, we are required to investigate." I knew exactly who filed it. There was no one else. Dylan had finally gone full scorched earth. No more vague threats. No more half-drunk accusations. This was targeted. And it wasn't just personal now. It was professional. He wanted to ruin me. I met with HR the next morning. The room was cold. Too quiet. A neutral beige that made everything feel more serious than it already was. Angela from HR read from a prepared script. I told them everything. That Rachel was my sister-in-law. That she and Lena had stayed over for their safety. That Dylan was spiraling. I didn't bring up the video yet. I didn't want to weaponize Lena unless I had to. Angela nodded slowly. "You understand how this looks to someone without context?" "I understand how it looks when someone knows just enough to weaponize the truth." "And there's no romantic involvement between you and Mrs. Dawson?" "None." I watched her write that down. It still didn't feel real. Word spread fast after that. People at work stopped making eye contact. I caught 2 guys from IT whispering in the break room when I walked in. Another forwarded me a link to some anonymous thread where people were speculating about Lucas from marketing and his brother's wife. Charleston wasn't a big town. Reputations were currency. And mine was being drained in real time. At home, things were just as tense. Rachel was trying to stay calm for Lena, but the weight of it all was visible in her face. "He's telling people I cheated," she said one night. "He's trying to make you look like the unstable one." Classic. He screws up, then makes me look like the bad mother. We can't let him control the narrative. Then what do? We tell the truth. That night, I drafted a timeline. Every incident I could remember. Every time Dylan screamed at a family function. Every time Rachel called me in tears. Every message Lena had sent, asking questions no child should have to ask. And then I added the HR report. The false claims. The family group chats that had gone eerily quiet since Dylan started spreading the story. I sent it all to Jeanette Collins, a lawyer one of my friends recommended. She specialized in family harassment and protective orders. She read through everything silently during our first meeting, then looked up and said, "He's escalating because he thinks he's losing control. This is textbook narcissistic retaliation. If we wait, it'll get worse. We need to go on the offensive." Meanwhile, my mother called. Her voice was tight. Practiced. "Lucas, what is going on? Have you talked to Dylan? He's upset. Says you're trying to take his daughter." "And you believed him?" "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." She sighed. "Can't you two just talk it out?" "He filed a false HR complaint against me, Mom. This isn't a disagreement. It's a smear campaign. He's family. So am I. Or does that only count when I keep quiet?" She didn't respond. Because she didn't have to. Then came the moment I'd been dreading. Lena came home from school crying. She ran straight into my arms, sobbing. Rachel followed close behind, panicked. She overheard two girls at school saying her uncle was stealing her family. 9 years old. Already being poisoned by Dylan's lies. That night, Rachel finally broke. "We need to show the video. To the lawyer. To HR. To whoever needs to see it." I nodded. We were past playing nice. The next morning, I scheduled a second meeting with Angela from HR. I handed her a flash drive and said, "This is what your anonymous source didn't want you to see." She watched the video, Dylan's voice booming, his fists slamming on the walls, Lena's small figure shaking in the background. Angela's eyes went wide. "We'll be updating our report." That's what I told her, and we've retained legal counsel. If this continues, we'll be filing charges. She didn't blink, just said, "Good. You should." Later that week, I received an internal memo. The allegations have been found unsubstantiated. We consider the matter closed. I wasn't reinstated to full status immediately, but the cloud started to lift. Whispers turned into glances of apology. I didn't care. I wasn't doing this for them. I was doing it for Lena and Rachel, and maybe for the version of myself I spent years shrinking so Dylan wouldn't feel threatened. That night, Rachel handed me a folder. "What's this?" "Everything I've been saving. Screenshots. Notes. Copies of texts. Even old voicemails. From Dylan. Yes. For custody. Or for court. Or for whatever comes next." I flipped through the pages. The threats. The gaslighting. The pattern. It was undeniable. Why now? Because I'm done hoping he'll change. And I think you're too. She was right. The line had been crossed. And this time, we weren't backing down. There are moments in life when things become irreversible. The second you say a truth out loud that can't be unsaid. The moment someone crosses a line you can never uncross. Rachel handing me that folder was one of those moments. It was a plain black binder, the kind you'd use for a school report. But inside it, evidence that painted a full portrait of a man slowly destroying everything around him. Screenshots of Dylan's text messages, blaming Lena for his temper, threatening Rachel if she embarrassed him again, accusing Lucas of trying to steal his blood. Voicemails, his voice slurred, saying things like, "You think people won't believe me over you? Go ahead. Try." Photos of holes punched in drywall. Furniture broken and left for days. Rachel had documented everything. Quietly. Carefully. And now, she was done hiding. We brought the folder to Jeanette Collins, the attorney. She spent an hour reading it. Didn't interrupt. Didn't skim. When she finished, she said, "We can file for emergency custody and a protective order within a week." Rachel nodded. "Do it." I asked, cautiously, "And what about Dylan? If he retaliates, we'll have legal grounds. But make no mistake, he will retaliate." And he did. 2 days later, my parents showed up at my door unannounced. My mother had tears in her eyes. My father? He just looked ashamed. "We heard you and Rachel are trying to take Lena away. We're trying to protect her. He's her father, Lucas. And I'm her uncle. One who doesn't scream at her until she hides under her bed." My mother snapped. "You're tearing this family apart." "No. I'm refusing to pretend it's still whole." She didn't speak after that. Just left a pie on the counter like that would fix anything. That night, I found out Dylan had called my boss directly. Claimed I was mentally unstable and obsessed with his wife and child. He said I'd been sabotaging his marriage for years. My boss didn't believe him. Thank God. But it was clear Dylan wasn't afraid of going low. Then came the message. A voicemail. From Dylan. Choked with fury. "You want to play court games? Fine. But when Lena asks where her real father is, remember that it was you who turned her against me. I saved the message, filed it, labeled it Exhibit C. The court date was set. Preliminary hearing. Rachel filed for temporary sole custody with supervised visitation for Dylan. Jeanette walked us through the steps. He'll try to discredit her. He'll bring up everything. Your finances. Your relationship with Rachel. Even your childhood. What if he says we're involved? Then we present what matters, that you provided safety when no one else did. Meanwhile, Lena stayed with me full-time. She started sleeping through the night again. No more waking up to check if the doors were locked. No more asking what she did wrong. She smiled more. Drew pictures. Called me Uncle Lou again like she used to. One night she asked, "Why does Dad hate when I'm happy with you?" Rachel froze. I bent down and looked her in the eyes. Because sometimes people get scared when love doesn't look the way they want it. But you are never responsible for someone else's anger. She nodded, then hugged me like her arms couldn't wrap around fast enough. A week before the hearing, Rachel got a text from Dylan. "If you do this, I'll make sure Lena never sees your family again." She didn't respond, but she took a screenshot, filed it. Then came the worst of it. He went public, posted a thread on Facebook, tagged our entire extended family. Imagine losing your wife to your brother. Imagine your daughter being turned against you by the man who always hated you. I've made mistakes, but at least I'm not a traitor. The comments came fast, some from distant relatives. I always knew Lucas was jealous. Others from friends of Dylan's who barely knew us. This is sick. What kind of brother does this? But the worst? My own aunt, our father's sister, wrote, "Lucas always wanted to replace Dylan. Looks like he finally did." I didn't respond. Neither did Rachel. Because you can't reason with people committed to a lie that makes them feel righteous. But Lena saw it. A kid at school pulled it up on a phone. She came home crying. "Everyone thinks I said those things. That I hate my dad. No one who matters believes that," I told her. "And you don't need to defend how you feel. But what if I don't want to see him again?" That's when Rachel stepped in. "Then you don't have to. Not until you're safe. Not until it's your choice." The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was afraid of losing, but because I was afraid of what it would take to win. I didn't want Lena to grow up thinking love was a war zone. But we couldn't teach her peace until we finished the fight. Charleston County Family Court doesn't look like the movies. No grand marble steps. No rows of reporters. Just beige hallways that smell like coffee and paperwork. Just another building filled with people trying to survive the people who were supposed to love them. Rachel wore a navy suit. I wore the only tie I owned that didn't have a wine stain on it. Lena stayed home, tucked safely with Elise, Rachel's co-worker and most loyal ally, watching Disney movies and coloring like the world wasn't on fire outside her window. But we knew. This hearing? This was everything. The judge was an older woman, calm, unreadable. She didn't smile when we walked in, and she didn't flinch when Dylan entered 15 minutes late, wearing a wrinkled button-up and sunglasses indoors. He smirked as he passed our table, murmured, just loud enough for me to hear, "Hope you rehearsed your lines." I didn't look at him, because the moment wasn't about him anymore. Jeanette started strong, introduced the emergency custody request, laid out the basic framework, history of verbal and emotional abuse, escalating intimidation tactics, psychological instability, and now public harassment of both Rachel and her minor daughter. She handed the judge the folder. The judge read silently for what felt like hours, then nodded. "Let's hear from the petitioner." Rachel stood, voice clear, no tremble. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just told the truth. She spoke about the yelling, about the way Dylan would throw things near her, but never at her, so he could claim it wasn't abuse, about the way Lena would hide in her closet and text Lucas instead of coming to her own mother, because she didn't want to make it worse. Dylan interrupted 3 times. First, when she mentioned his drinking. I was stressed. That's not a crime. Then, when she brought up the video. That was one night. One bad night. And finally, when she said Lena asked to live with Lucas. She's a child. She doesn't know what she wants. You're manipulating her. The judge silenced him with a glance so sharp it could have cracked glass. Then it was my turn. Jeanette asked simple questions. Did you ever have a romantic relationship with your sister-in-law? No. Did you invite Rachel or Lena to live with you? No. They asked. I said yes. Did you ever intend to replace Dylan as a father figure? I hesitated, then looked the judge in the eye. I never wanted to replace anyone. I wanted Lena to feel safe. That's it. Then came Dylan's attorney. He came armed with the usual tactics. "Mr. Dawson, do you hold any resentment toward your brother?" I did. When we were kids. But I grew up. Do you deny emotionally interfering in his marriage? Completely. Have you ever said that you would be a better parent to Lena? No, but I've been a safer one. Then Dylan took the stand. And that's when the mask dropped. He started calm. I've made mistakes, sure. But I love my daughter. Then he turned. Fast. This whole thing? It's a setup. My brother has been undermining me since we were teenagers. He always hated that I was the one people liked. The judge raised an eyebrow. Mr. Dawson, please keep your comments relevant. I am. You think this is about Lena? This is about control. About Rachel needing someone to blame for her own bitterness and Lucas wanting to feel important for once in his life. He pointed at me. You think you're the good guy? You think stealing my family makes you noble? Jeanette stood. Your Honor, I have audio of this exact rhetoric. Multiple instances. It's patterned. Of course you do, Dylan snapped. You've been documenting me like I'm a criminal. The judge tilted her head. Mr. Dawson, no one is documenting you. Your actions have been recorded by those trying to protect themselves. So I'm just the villain now? No, Mr. Dawson, she said. You're just loud. The courtroom fell silent. The judge recessed for deliberation. 15 minutes. We sat there, not speaking. Rachel stared ahead, her hands folded so tightly her knuckles were white. Dylan tapped his foot, checked his phone, kept muttering to himself. When the judge returned, she didn't waste time. I am granting temporary sole custody to Mrs. Rachel Dawson, effective immediately. Mr. Dylan Dawson is to undergo court-mandated psychological evaluation before any supervised visitation is considered. Furthermore, all contact outside approved channels is prohibited until this court reviews progress. Mr. Lucas Dawson is not to be named in any future allegations without material proof or you risk civil defamation consequences. Dylan stood. You can't be serious. Mr. Dawson, one more word and you'll be escorted out. He sat. But the look on his face? It wasn't defeat. It was calculation. Like he was already rewriting the story in his head. Outside, Rachel exhaled for the first time in days. It's not over. No, I said. But now it's on record. Lena ran into her mother's arms when we got home. Did we win? Rachel knelt. We're safe. That's the real win. That night, I sat alone on the porch. The air was warm. Still, I thought about all the things Dylan said. The twisted mix of pain and ego. Of love distorted by control. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel responsible for it. I didn't feel like I had to fix it. I was Lena's protector now. And no court, no smear, no tantrum could change that. Dylan didn't show up for the follow-up hearing. Not for the psychological evaluation. Not for the visitation review. Nothing. He disappeared from Charleston like someone trying to outrun a reputation that finally caught up. Rumor was, he went to stay with an old college friend in Atlanta. Someone who owed him a favor, probably. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want them. His silence was the closest thing we'd get to an apology. The house felt different without the weight of him in the air. Quieter. Not empty. Just peaceful. Lena started sleeping with the lights off again. She went back to her after-school art club. Started humming in the car. Asking about field trips instead of what to say if her dad showed up unannounced. She still had questions, though. One night, she asked, will Dad ever get better? Rachel looked at me, unsure. I said, maybe. But getting better isn't the same as being safe. And right now, we're choosing safe. She nodded. Didn't cry. Just took her stuffed bear and went to bed. Rachel and I settled into a rhythm. No romance. No, will they or won't they? Just the kind of respect that comes from walking through fire together and deciding not to let it burn you down. She called me her co-parent. We never defined it beyond that. And for the first time in our lives, not defining something felt like control, not chaos. My parents didn't take sides. Not really. They just withdrew. I think, deep down, they couldn't face what Dylan had become. Or maybe they couldn't face what they'd allowed him to be for so long. My mother sent Lena a birthday card that year. No money inside. Just a short note. We love you. Always. Lena opened it, stared for a while, then handed it to Rachel without a word. That was the last card she received. The final message from Dylan came in the form of a letter. 6 months after the custody hearing. Unmarked envelope. No return address. Inside, a single page, typed, Lucas, I don't expect you to read this. Hell, I don't even expect you to care. I've been angry for a long time. At you. At Rachel. At the world. I always thought I had the right to be, because nothing ever felt fair. But I watched a video of myself the other day, one Rachel must have recorded. I don't recognize the guy in it. But I know he's me. I scared my kid. I scared my wife. And instead of fixing it, I blamed you. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just, maybe don't hate me forever. Tell Lena I'm sorry. That's all. I read it twice. Then tucked it away in a drawer I almost never opened. I didn't show Rachel. Not right away. When I finally did, she read it silently and said, "He means it." But that doesn't make it enough. Lena never asked about him again. Not in the way you'd expect. Sometimes she'd say things like, "Uncle Lou, do you think it's okay to miss someone who hurt you?" And I'd answer, "Missing someone doesn't mean you want them back. It just means part of you remembers when it was better." She seemed satisfied with that. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for, especially the ones who've had to grow up faster than they should. A year passed, then another. Rachel took a new job at a clinic outside the city. Lena got braces and a cat and started calling me Lukey when she was in a good mood. Me? I kept living. No bitterness. No obsession with who was right. Just a quiet pride in knowing I'd shown up when it mattered. One afternoon, Rachel asked me, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't answered that text?" All the time. And then I remembered that I did. I still don't know what Dylan wanted from that letter. Closure? Redemption? A clean slate? But here's the thing no one tells you about forgiveness. It's not something you owe. It's something you earn. And sometimes, you're not the one who needs to offer it. Sometimes, walking away is the forgiveness. We never really put a label on what we became, the three of us. But we were a family. The kind that builds itself from the rubble. The kind that knows peace is quiet and unphotographed. The kind where no one has to earn their seat at the table. Just show up. With honesty. And maybe a plate of warm cookies. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it too.